My elder sister passed away, and I entered the palace as the second empress. The emperor told me to choose a prince to raise under my name. As my fingers touched the two princes, I saw two chaotic futures. If I chose the third prince, he would ascend the throne and have my entire family killed, then stab me to death. If I chose the ninth prince, after he became emperor, he would fake my death and imprison me in the palace, making me a reviled demoness. I pondered for a moment, then raised my finger to point at the little princess peeking in through the doorframe. Your Majesty, I feel a closer bond with the 13th princess. Emperor Zhao Yi was once my brother-in-law. At 30, he remained exceptionally handsome and graceful. After my elder sister's death, various households began to scheme. After much deliberation, Zhao Yi decided to select a daughter from my family to enter the palace and stabilize the court. I had just turned 18. Thus, I entered the palace as the second empress. On our wedding night, Zhao Yi didn't touch me, and neither did I move. We lay on the same bed and both fell asleep. When we woke up, we were still far apart. I realized then that Zhao Yi had no feelings for me, and I felt the same toward him. Whenever I thought of how he was once my brother-in-law and how my healthy, intelligent sister had died young in his harem, I couldn't muster any desire for him. At dawn, Zhao Yi dressed for court. He adjusted his collar as he walked out, paused at the door, and said to me, "There are several princes in the palace without a mother. Later, you may adopt one under your name." I respectfully agreed. I knew he had no intention of letting me have children. The matron who came to collect the handkerchief was astonished not to see the virgin blood. "Your Majesty, how can this be?" I frowned slightly. My expression turned cold. "It is the emperor's will. The emperor will let me choose a prince to raise as my own." The matron sighed deeply, a trace of sympathy appearing on her face. There are 3,000 beauties in the palace, but Zhao Yi had his own beloved. Everyone in the harem knew he doted on Consort Lan. After Consort Lan entered the palace for 2 years, no more infants were born in the harem. Instead, consorts died one after another. Consort Ling, Consort Hui, Noble One, Favorite Song, and then my sister. After my sister passed away, I entered the palace with my mother to see her remains. She was emaciated. Her wrists, once smooth as jade, were so thin that her golden bracelet slipped past her wrist and fell to her palm. Her clothes hung loose on her body, as if a gust of wind could blow her away. My mother wailed in grief. Full of questions but unable to speak, I lowered my eyes to hide the hatred in my heart, feeling a deep sorrow. When my eldest sister married, I was only 6. She smiled with her eyes and nervously looked out the door. After meeting the teasing eyes of everyone, she shyly turned her head and covered her face with a handkerchief.
Zhao Yi was also wonderful that day.
He walked gracefully, his eyes shining brightly, genuinely joyful to marry my sister. He pressed a 10,000-tael silver note into my hand, saying it was a gift for his sister-in-law. It was the largest red envelope I had ever received. I remember it to this day, and whenever I think of it, I feel happy. I believe Zhao Yi and my sister truly loved each other. They lived in mutual respect for 12 years. My sister was virtuous and capable. When Zhao Yi was a prince, the household was harmonious. After he became emperor, my sister became empress, and more concubines were brought into the palace. My sister combined kindness with authority, and the harem remained stable. It wasn't until Lady Lan entered the palace that Zhao Yi suddenly found his true love. He devoted all his heart to Lady Lan and began to neglect the other concubines. Ignoring palace rules and favoring Consort Lan, he still has some affection for his sister. She advised him to spread his favors evenly, but Zhao Yi looked weary and irritable, the court already stable. With many children in the harem, I have done what I must. I just want to live for myself once, can't I? His sister was speechless. It was fine for him to dote on Consort Lan, but he shouldn't disrupt the harem's peace for her sake. The authority she had painstakingly built over years collapsed overnight. His sister fell ill. The etiquette and principles she had upheld since childhood often crumbled before Consort Lan and Zhao Yi. When their mother entered the palace to visit her, the sister dismissed the attendants and whispered, "Mother, what do we do?" He might follow the footsteps of Emperor Wu of the previous dynasty. Emperor Wu excelled in both civil and military affairs. But in his middle years, he became debauched and lawless, deposing the crown prince, executing the empress, and plunging the court into chaos. For generations, his descendants were busy stabilizing the government, but they could never reverse the decline. Mercilessly drowned by the torrent of history, tears gathered at the corners of elder sister's eyes. She truly felt heartache. She originally had the chance to be a wise empress alongside Zhao Yi, a wise emperor, but now everything was heading toward collapse. She feared she would follow in the footsteps of the previous dynasty's empress. Mother tightly grasped her wrist, telling her to worry less and take care of herself first. After all, she still had her own 13th princess to raise. Even if it was for the child, she had to take care of herself. Mother tearfully exhorted her, solemnly and earnestly. These words were spoken privately, but the palace was full of talented people. Someone could read lips. And thus the words of that day reached Zhao Ye's ears. He punished elder sister and rebuked father, forbidding mother from entering the palace ever again. From then on, elder sister was isolated and helpless in the palace until her death. Zhao Yi told the outside world that she died of illness, but I do not believe it. Elder sister loved the 13th princess so much, she would not be willing to die. Her death must have had another reason. After Zhao Yi ended the morning court, he brought 2 princes before me. One was the 3rd prince, whose mother was consort Hui. It is said she committed suicide out of guilt. The other was the 9th prince, whose mother was noblewoman. She was cast into the cold palace for plotting against consort Lan and later died, but I find it absurd. A mere noble lady, with lady of handsome fairness, lady of noble rank, and madam above her. Even if she killed consort Lan, she could not rise to the rank of imperial consort. Why would she risk striking a rock with an egg? More likely, she offended consort Lan, was abandoned by Zhao Yi, and thrown into the cold palace, where life and death were left to others' whims. Zhao Yi looked at me indifferently, his fingers idly pointing toward the 2 princes, his voice weary. Which of these 2 children do you wish to raise? I rose slowly and walked over to the boys. The 3rd prince was 11, the 9th prince 10. Both were already tall. I raised my hand, and the attendants brought over 2 sets of scholars' tools. I smiled warmly and said, "These are my gifts to welcome you." The 2 princes bowed in gratitude, and I reached out to help them rise. But the moment I touched them, I glimpsed 2 chaotic futures. If I chose the 3rd prince as my adopted son, he would one day ascend the throne, and he would massacre my maternal clan and order my death. If I chose the 9th prince, he would ascend the throne and make me feign death, then imprison me in the harem under a new identity, branding me a demon consort despised by all. I was momentarily stunned, my body involuntarily swaying. The 2 children studied me and asked in unison, "Mother Empress, what is wrong?" My heart was pounding wildly, but my face remained calm. I slowly sat down, picked up the teacup, and took a gentle sip. "I'm fine. Let me think carefully." My feelings were complicated. First, neither of these 2 children was a good choice. Second, it seemed my ability had returned. Since childhood, I had possessed a power. By touching others, I could see their future. When I was 3, I saw my wet nurse and cried loudly, saying, "Isn't she dead? Why has she come back to life?" My mother laughed in exasperation and told me I couldn't casually speak of life and death. It was like cursing someone, making people dislike me. Later, on a rainy day, the wet nurse slipped and fell, hitting the back of her head on a sharp corner, dying instantly on the spot. After that, when I saw my grandmother, I would hide in fear. Not long after, my grandmother passed away from illness. My mother began to grow uneasy. She took me to a temple. She had heard that children's eyes could see unclean things and hoped the temple's nuns could exorcise my demons. I lived in that nunnery for 3 years. Every day, the abbess, Master Jingchan, would come to ask me, "Mingtang, how are you feeling today?" I touched her and still saw her future, an old nun sitting in meditation, passing away. I shook my head, and she understood. I could only see others' futures through touch. When I was 6, I fully recovered. Touching others no longer had any effect. I returned home and attended my elder sister's wedding ceremony. Until today, that lost ability suddenly returned. I lifted my eyes to look at the 2 children. I shook my head and refused. "Your Majesty, I thought it over, but I'd rather not." Zhao Yi frowned slightly. "Neither the 3rd nor the 9th prince pleases you?" The third prince and ninth prince looked over. Their mothers had both passed away, and they were cared for by close nursemaids. The two might not truly want me to be their mother, they just didn't want me to dislike them. I smiled gently and said, "That's not the case. The third prince and the ninth prince are both talented and handsome. I am very fond of them, but I am not much older than them. When sons grow up, they should keep distance from their mother. We should avoid any impropriety. Moreover, I consider myself to be lacking in knowledge. Their experience is insufficient. There's nothing much I can teach them. If I forced them to stay, I'd only hold them back." I look toward the door, where the 13th princess is peeking in, her hands gripping the doorframe, her face full of curiosity. I point at her and say softly, "Your Majesty, I feel a special bond with the 13th princess. She is young and a girl, so I can teach her the things a daughter should know." The 13th princess wears her hair in twin buns tied with red silk ribbons, her big, sparkling eyes blinking. I beckon her in. She glances back outside. An old nursemaid stands there, eyes downcast, not looking around. The 13th princess receives no signal. After a moment's thought, she steps inside. She greets me with a proper bow, saying, "Greetings, Empress." She is my elder sister's daughter, bearing her grace. My heart stirs as I suppress my joy, walking slowly toward her. I extend my hand. "13th princess, would you like me to be your mother?" She blinks, gazes at me for a moment, then gently places her hand in mine. In a soft, sticky voice, she says, "Your Highness, the Empress. Your subject is willing." The moment her small hand touched my palm, I saw two futures for her. In the first, she was struck through the throat by the third prince, who wore the imperial crown, and before she died, she cursed bitterly, "You are ungrateful, murdering your mother and your master. You will die a horrible death." In the second future, she was dressed in bridal robes and forced onto a marriage carriage for a peace alliance. She glared at the ninth prince, who wore imperial robes, and cursed harshly, "You act against all reason, forcing your mother to be a concubine. You will face retribution." What answered her was the emperor's cold sneer and mockery. My heart raced and my eyes grew hot. I thought I had made the right choice. In both futures, this child stood by my side. The 13th princess looked up in confusion, reaching out to touch my cheek. "Mother Empress, what's wrong?" I gently pulled her into my arms, my cheek brushing against her dark, soft hair. A warm surge flowed through my heart. "Your mother only needs to think of having such a good daughter as you, and I can't help but be happy." Zhao Yu was not pleased with my choice. His brows furrowed slightly, showing some confusion. "If you want a young one, there are other princes. The court expects the empress to bear a legitimate son. Zhao Yu didn't want to have one with me, so he simply gave me a child. To silence the court and stop people from cursing Consort Lan as a demon consort. Because of my elder sister's death, Consort Lan has a terrible reputation among the people. Zhao Yu really cares about Consort Lan." I lowered my eyes, my tone gentle but firm. "Your Majesty, I only want the 13th princess. She is my elder sister's child. Having her is enough for me." Zhao Yu's eyes darkened slightly. He gave me a deep look, but in the end, he said nothing more. He left indifferently with the two princes. The 13th princess whispered, "Mother, father is unhappy. He doesn't like people mentioning mother." My heart stirred. "Why?" The 13th princess blinked, and tears suddenly welled up at the corners of her eyes. "Mother was very ill. Father assigned all the imperial physicians to treat Consort Lan. Father said mother was pretending to be sick. He reached out to pull her, and mother fell off the bed like that." She sobbed, crying very sadly. The nanny who cared for her reached out to take the 13th princess, gently coaxing her to sleep. Once the princess fell asleep, she quietly told me that Zhao Yi had pulled my elder sister off the bed and saw the livor mortis on her wrist. He was frightened. From then on, my elder sister became taboo to him, and even the 13th princess was not welcomed by him. As my elder sister had predicted, Zhao Yi was indeed going to follow in the footsteps of the former Emperor Wu. My elder sister had been the woman who accompanied him for 12 years. She was wise and virtuous, never making a single misstep, yet she still ended up like this. A chill ran through my heart, and strands of hatred spread to every limb and bone. My contact with my elder sister was not frequent, but it was very warm. Every time I entered the palace, she would pityingly stroke my hair, hoping I would grow up safely and have a smooth life in the future. Mingtang, with me backing you up, you can be yourself in the future. Unfortunately, she herself died young at 30. I rewarded the nanny for bringing the 13th princess here today. Well done. From the very beginning, I was unwilling to choose any of the princes brought by Zhao Yi. A queen without favor being forced to raise a child not her own, and an older prince at that, would make it impossible to build an emotional bond. I would also be dragged into the struggle for the throne, with high risk and slim returns. This deal was in no way worthwhile, so I would never do it. Therefore, I sent my personal maidservant, whom I brought from home, to deliver a message. I instructed the nanny to bring the 13th princess to my palace to play. The nanny was clever and understood immediately, which allowed me to reunite with the 13th princess. I rubbed my aching temples and calmly said, "Tell me about Consort Lan." Consort Lan was the most unrestrained and flamboyant woman in the harem. In her 2 years in the palace, she was promoted every 3 months for minor advancements and every 5 months for major ones, rising swiftly from a lowly Chongzai to the current Consort Lan. She was originally set to be promoted to noble Consort Lan. But because of my eldest sister's passing, the enfeoffment had to be halted. She once complained about my sister. She had to die now of all times. What rotten luck. That time, Zhao Yi unusually did not indulge her. Instead, he darkened his face and harshly told her to shut up. Consort Lan knew she was wrong. Zhao Yi sat silently in his elder sister's bedchamber all night, and she stayed outside to accompany him through the night. After dawn, Zhao Yi came out, saw her sleepy-eyed, and easily forgave her impropriety. He ordered the sealing of his elder sister's bedchamber, forbidding anyone from entering it ever again. Even the 13th princess was moved out of the elder sister's palace. Zhao Yi didn't specify where she should live, so the palace servants arranged for her to stay in a very small palace, living with her wet nurse. If it weren't for my entering the palace, the 13th princess, the little princess born of the Empress, would have been completely forgotten. The wet nurse hesitated, saying, "When Consort Lan first entered the palace, she was still respectful to Her Majesty the Empress. But later, after gaining the Emperor's favor, she made several mistakes, each time shielded by His Majesty. Consort Lan only grew more arrogant, to the point that when she broke out in a rash from accidentally eating something, she summoned the entire Imperial Medical Academy to wait outside her palace. She claimed her sister had harmed her, and Zhao Yi believed her. Upon hearing that her sister was critically ill and needed to summon a doctor for treatment, I grew even more disgusted, convinced that my sister was using lowly tactics to win favor. After 12 years together, he didn't trust his own wife, believing only what he heard, blinded by lust.
He deserved to die.
The 13th princess moved in with me. The concubines came as usual to pay respects to the Empress, except for Consort Lan. Zhao Yi said she was exhausted from accompanying him, so he sent word to exempt her from the morning and evening rituals. He sent his personal eunuch to announce it in front of everyone. He slapped the Empress's dignity to pieces. Even I, who had no feelings for Zhao Yi, felt embarrassed. My elder sister, who had deep affection for him, must have felt even worse back then. Ignoring the varied glances from the crowd, I got up and went to find Zhao Yi. He was in the diligent governance hall. He summoned me in, his brows tinged with some anger at my disobedience. In his view, he had already decided on this matter, so I should comply. He didn't want an empress who tried to control the harem. He only wanted a puppet to obediently stay in that position. Don't bother him and Consort Lan. He thought his attitude was clear enough on our wedding night when he didn't touch me. Empress, what do you want? I lifted my robe and performed a great bow. I voluntarily request to be demoted to a concubine, welcoming Lady Lan to enter the main palace as the Empress. I knelt quietly on the ground, the surroundings so silent that a needle drop could be heard, only Zhao Yi's breathing growing increasingly rapid, carrying an ominous aura like a storm about to break. Song Mingtang, what nonsense are you spouting? I am not speaking nonsense, Your Majesty. I have heard outside the palace that you and Lady Lan are deeply in love. I do not wish to stand between you. I only hope that Your Majesty and Lady Lan may be happily wed, creating a beautiful story. I am willing to step down to the rank of consort, with Lady Lan as the supreme one. Zhao Yi was silent for a long time before saying, "What do people outside say about me and Lady Lan?" I did not speak, only lowered my eyes to gaze at the ground. Zhao Yi slowly walked before me. Lady Lan will only ever be a consort, never an empress. I married you as my second empress, hoping you would manage the harem well and not cause me trouble. I thought you understood. Your Majesty, the harem can only have one ruler. If your Majesty intends to make Lady Lan the empress, I will certainly follow her lead. Your Majesty does not wish her to be empress, nor does he grant me the true honor of an empress. I cannot manage the harem well. Only with clear powers and responsibilities can orders be carried out smoothly. Unclear powers only make it hard for those below. Your Majesty cannot give me favor, and I have no complaint. But not giving me authority is like not providing provisions to soldiers on campaign. I dare not obey. Consort Lan is the daughter of a low-ranking 9th grade official. With her influence, her father has only been promoted to 6th grade in the past 2 years, which is already an unusually fast promotion. If she becomes empress, officials of 6th rank and above who have daughters in the palace would be dissatisfied, let alone that she caused my elder sister's death and has a bad reputation. If she becomes empress, my father will lead the impeachment. My father only has 2 daughters, my elder sister and me. My elder sister is dead. He will not let me be bullied again. After a long silence, Zhao Yi said calmly, "You are more eloquent than your elder sister. Your elder sister loved and respected His Majesty. She was willing to tolerate everything. I am shallow. I just want to live comfortably," I said calmly. Zhao Ye's demeanor turned heavy, revealing a trace of desolation. He knew I was right. Elder sister loved him, and he knew it well. But over time, he grew weary of that love, and now that she is gone, it has become a regret. I will grant you the authority of an empress, but I hope you will use that power wisely and not make things difficult for Consort Lan. If Consort Lan makes a mistake, can I punish her? I looked straight into Zhao Ye's eyes, not about to let the power he just granted me make me promise not to trouble Consort Lan. Consort Lan and I are destined to be enemies. I will quietly destroy her, make her die a miserable death. Zhao Ye's face darkened. He thought I was being ungrateful. Whether Consort Lan is at fault, I will decide personally. Very well. If your Majesty finds that Consort Lan is truly at fault, I hope your Majesty will handle it according to palace rules. Thank you, your Majesty. I struggled to rise, but stumbled and fell before Zhao Yi. To steady myself, I grabbed his wrist. The moment my skin touched his, I saw countless images. He died during a hunting expedition. The 3rd prince and the 9th prince accompanied him on a hunt, a scene of fatherly kindness and filial piety. Suddenly, the 3rd prince drew his bow and aimed at him. He angrily rebuked the 3rd prince for disloyalty, hoping the 9th prince would block for him. But the 9th prince chuckled softly and blocked his path, delivering a sharp stab to his abdomen. In disbelief, he fell from his horse, blood staining the grass crimson. I was stunned for a moment, shocked by what I saw. Zhao Yi noticed me standing still, furrowed his brows slightly, and stepped back discreetly. I curled my lips, lightly bowed to him, and turned to leave. My goal was achieved. Before my abilities were restored, I didn't want to touch him at all. After my abilities returned, I had been eager to see him, to glimpse his future. He sent someone to deliver a message, slapping my face, so I came to see him. If I could obtain the authority of the Empress, that would be good. If not, I would seize the chance to touch him and glimpse his future. Fortunately, I obtained the authority of the Empress, and his future also pleased me. Outside the diligent governance hall, the wet nurse was waiting with the 13th princess. Seeing me come out, the 13th princess threw herself into my arms. "Mother, are you all right?" I bent down and held her in my arms. An 8-year-old girl is quite heavy, but I am delighted to have a true loved one by my side in this deep palace. I held her, as if holding a bright future. It was heartening. I whispered into her ear about what happened today, telling her this is called retreating in order to advance. She widened her eyes and asked, "Mother, aren't you afraid?" "No, I am not." I had just entered the harem, with countless eyes watching me. This was the best moment for me to make my requests. If I missed this opportunity, setting rules afterward would be extremely difficult. Remember this. Opportunities slip away in an instant. If you want something, you must act decisively. The 13th princess fell into thought, her tender arms around my neck, her little head resting against my neck. She whispered, Mother used to be brave, too. Later, Lady Lanfei arrived, and Mother no longer dared to speak loudly to Father. Father forced Mother to apologize to Lady Lanfei. Mother refused, so Father locked her up. Mother, Yua wants to be as brave as you in the future. I paused and said gently, your mother has always been very brave. In this world, there are many who know how to play it safe, but not everyone has the courage to face difficulties head-on. Your mother was remarkable. She sheltered many people in this palace. You should be able to feel that. The 13th princess blinked, her eyes slightly moist. After my elder sister passed away, though the 13th princess was sent to live in a smaller palace, her meals were attended to, someone sent her clothes, and someone watched over her quietly. When I saw her, her little face was plump, and she was spirited, a child well cared for. In this palace, there were those who remembered my elder sister's kindness and silently repaid it to her daughter. I thought to myself, this is the meaning of my elder sister's struggle. Mother hopes you will have your mother's courage in the future. And also my luck. My luck has indeed been good. Zhao Yi has already caused the death of one empress. He cannot let the second one die too quickly. He still cares about his reputation. That is the space I have to survive. The next morning, I saw Consort Lan. She arrived late when the crowd was about to disperse, dressed in splendid attire, radiating brilliance. Seeing me in simple clothing, a flicker of contempt and smugness flashed in her eyes. Thinking herself more beautiful, she believed she deserved all the favor and naturally did not consider me a rival. But matters of the heart are never rational. If they were, Zhao Yi would have always loved my elder sister. After all, he married her out of love back then. Consort Lan hastily performed a curtsy and said lazily with a smile, I served His Majesty too late last night, and he specially allowed me to come later. I beg Her Majesty the Empress to forgive me. She looked at her crimson-painted nails, the bright red very striking. I smiled and said it was fine, then ignored her, instead asking after every consort who had borne children. Zhao Yi was quite prolific. He had 17 children in total. I inquired about each one. How is the eldest princess lately? Is there anything I can help with? And the second princess, has the acne on her face improved? The 5th prince, does he lack anything in clothing or food? Is the 17th still fussy at bedtime? If you need anything, feel free to inform me. Do not be afraid. Everyone respectfully answered, but Consort Lan's face grew paler, as if she had just realized that besides me, she entered the palace later than most of the concubines and had no children. Even if she gave birth, her child would have 17 older siblings. One day, these children would grow up and replace Zhao Yi. Then what? What would she do? Her eyes reddened, tinged with hatred. She cast an imperceptible glare at me, then nervously stroked her belly. In truth, among the scenes I glimpsed when touching Zhao Yi, there was one of Consort Lan being pregnant. She gave birth to a prince, and Zhao Yi doted on him immensely. To pave the way for this child, he even considered sending all the nearly adult princes out of the capital. This sparked the discontent of the 3rd prince and the 9th prince, who joined forces to kill Zhao Yi. I hope she gets pregnant soon. Pregnancy is when a woman becomes vulnerable. I will strike while she is weak and take her life. Consort Lan left in resentment and went back to complain to Zhao Yi. The Empress knows I have no son, so she deliberately stabbed at my heart. She omitted her own arrogance and only spoke of her grievances. Zhao Yi came to admonish me. I know there are many ways to torment people in the harem. You shouldn't use those methods on Consort Lan. I looked up and calmly met his eyes. Your Majesty, I will not advise you to distribute your favors evenly. But as Empress, I will do my utmost to look after every consort. Before they entered the palace, they were cherished daughters at home. After entering the palace, if they receive no favor from your Majesty, and if I do not care for them, their days will be as lifeless as stagnant water. If your Majesty favors Consort Lan, that is your Majesty's affair. I will only fulfill my duties with fairness and impartiality. If your Majesty comes to trouble me over a word from Consort Lan, then your Majesty might as well dismiss the harem and let them live, and also let me live, to avoid me merely speaking one sentence to Consort Lan. I would be rebuked by your Majesty. Zhao Yi looked at my face and was momentarily stunned. Anticipating his arrival, I had instructed the maids to apply makeup that made me look 70% like my elder sister. He dislikes anyone mentioning my elder sister, but I deliberately wanted him to see this face often, to remind him of his coldness and faithlessness. Zhao Yi snapped back to reality, his eyes turning several degrees colder. I only spoke one sentence, yet you have so many arguments and so many words waiting for me. If your majesty hadn't come, you wouldn't have to listen to my reasoning. I must thank Consort Lan for bringing your majesty here. I lifted my eyes and looked at him calmly, without flinching. Zhao Yi was silent for a long time, then said, "You are bolder than your sister." "A sister-in-law is never afraid of her brother-in-law," I sighed. Zhao Yi froze. The corners of his eyes suddenly reddened. He turned and left, his steps hurried, tinged with a hint of disarray. I called out to him, "Brother-in-law? What is it?" Zhao Yi did not turn back. His voice came steadily, but I could still hear a trace of sorrow in it. "The third prince and the others have grown up and need their father's guidance. I wish to bring them to see you more often in the future. First, to strengthen the bond between father and son. Second, to give them more manliness. When would you be available? Tomorrow afternoon?" He fled in panic, and I stared at his back. Turning around, I sneered coldly. "What he doesn't want to mention, I'll make him recall constantly. What he doesn't want to face, I'll make him see often. His pain is my source of joy in the harem." The next day at the morning audience, Consort Lan didn't come but sent word that she had served the emperor last night and was feeling unwell. I immediately took a royal physician to visit her in person. Consort Lan looked at my face and was equally dazed. Yesterday, I wore no makeup and plain clothes. Today, I am meticulously made up and dressed elaborately, the younger version of my elder sister. Her gaze at me suddenly sharpened. She might have realized her own foolishness. My elder sister is something Zhao Yi is used to and finds ordinary, but I am something new that Zhao Yi has never obtained, perhaps even because of our similar faces. Zhao Yi's guilt toward my elder sister might be compensated onto me. She shouldn't have let Zhao Yi meet me often. After the examination, the physician smiled at Consort Lan and said, "Congratulations, Your Highness. You are with child."
Consort Lan sờ mai, so mẹ wat sờ mù gù.
"Thanks to Your Highness's blessing. Yesterday you were still asking about heirs, and today I am pregnant. It seems you are truly the goddess of fertility, so why don't you bow to me?" My gaze was serious.
Consort Lan phơi.
Coming to her senses, she bit her lip hard, her eyes filled with hatred. I smiled faintly and said calmly, "Truly, your pregnancy comes at just the right time. The harem consorts have not received favor for years. Now it's the perfect time for them to attend His Majesty. Consort Lan, rest well. Don't worry about His Majesty. I will take care of him on your behalf." Consort Lan was furious. Her voice suddenly rose. "Song Mingtang, His Majesty made me a promise that he would never touch any other woman but me. Go ahead and arrange it. If he goes to sleep with them, I lose. I, Li Lanyi, either don't want anything, or, if I want it, it must be the best man." I beamed. Is that so? Back then, His Majesty also made a promise to my elder sister to grow old together and never betray each other. A man who can break his promise once will break it a second time. If you don't believe me, feel free to send someone to invite His Majesty this afternoon and see if he can be invited to your palace. If you succeed in inviting His Majesty. If I lose, I will no longer arrange for anyone to share the emperor's bed. If you lose, you shall kneel before my sister's memorial tablet and admit your fault. You could also go to the emperor and complain that I bullied you. I would be delighted if the emperor came to rebuke me again." I gave her a meaningful glance, then turned and walked away gracefully, arrogant and domineering. Consort Lan's gaze fixed on me, as if trying to see through me. I summoned all the mothers of the princes and princesses, along with their attendants. I bestowed gifts upon each of them and prepared a 7-colored prayer bracelet for warding off evil and seeking blessings for every one of them, personally putting it on their wrists. None of them knew what I was up to. They merely thought I was establishing my authority through favors, so they thanked me respectfully. As my fingers touched each person's skin, scenes flashed in my mind. Some were Consort Lan's spies placed in various palaces. Some were informants of the ministers from the former court. Others were servants who bullied their masters and mistreated the less favored princes and princesses, and yet others colluded with outsiders to smuggle forbidden items out of the palace. After they left, I immediately recorded everything and cross-checked each piece of information. The entire harem quickly became tense and uneasy. No one understood why so many changes had occurred in such a short time or why so many people had been detained. After finishing these tasks, I immediately led the princes and princesses to see Zhao Yi. At the entrance of the Hall of Diligent Governance, I whispered to the 13th princess, reminding her to remember what your mother told you. The 13th princess nodded gently and quietly squeezed my wrist. I couldn't help but smile. She was very clever. Once we entered, I presented a thick stack of papers to Zhao Yi with a serious expression. The papers recorded many things I had investigated. In short, the entire palace was like a sieve, full of leaks. Zhao Yi looked at me in shock and disbelief. How do you know all this? I naturally couldn't say I had special abilities. I said softly, your servant secretly went to the eldest princess's palace and found these items there. It seems she had wanted to speak for a long time, but never had the chance. Zhao Yi's face showed a moment of embarrassment. He probably remembered that during the 2 years he favored Consort Lan. The eldest princess could hardly see him, and when they did meet, it was only for Zhao Yi to reprimand her on Consort Lan's behalf. He accused his elder sister of being jealous and petty, rebuking her in front of everyone, causing her to lose all face as the empress. They constantly argued and could never calmly discuss anything. The empress lost her power and authority, making it difficult for her to punish the wicked and uphold justice. Zhao Yi flew into a rage and summoned the Court of Judicial Review, the Ministry of Justice, and the prefect of the capital for interrogation, then ordered all officials to the palace. He reprimanded those who needed reprimanding and held those accountable who needed to be held accountable. He spent the entire afternoon dealing with these matters. I quietly listened with the children in the rear hall. It was a rare learning opportunity. While Zhao Yi was scolding people in the front hall, I was in the rear hall, quietly analyzing with them why Zhao Yi was doing this. The 3rd prince, 9th prince, and 13th princess listened with sparkling eyes, not finding it boring at all. On the contrary, a few princes and princesses were either scared out of their wits or drowsy, leaning on each other and sleeping in a tangled mess. I ordered someone to carry them to the beds in the side hall to sleep, and continued telling the story to the rest. In the meantime, Consort Lan's people wandered outside the palace several times, wanting to invite Zhao Yi over. Consort Lan, certain that Zhao Yi would come for her, temporarily concealed her pregnancy, intending to use this news to lure him. In her imagination, Zhao Yi loved her and had always longed for them to have a child. Now that he heard the good news, he would surely come rushing over. However, upon hearing the news, Zhao Yi merely cast a complex glance at the eunuch delivering the message, then coldly ordered him to get out. Later, Consort Lan came in person, barging into the Hall of Diligent Governance. Ignoring the many ministers present, she tearfully questioned Zhao Yi. Your Majesty, I am with child. Do you not want Lan'er and our baby anymore? The ministers frowned deeply. Zhao Yi's eyes were complex, his face like a cold pool. In his heart, Consort Lan was arrogant and weak. She was like a thorny rose, beautiful, delicate, but only able to brandish her sharp thorns to protect herself. In truth, she could be plucked with ease. But now he discovered that this rose could scheme and had ulterior motives. She had planted her people in other palaces and was not as pure and flawless as he had thought. His heart was stirred. But love is instinct. He still protects Consort Lan. You go back first. I will visit you later. Consort Lan, probably recalling the bet we made, bit her lip and insisted, Your Majesty, just come to my palace for a while. Just for a moment. I have something to tell you. The great hall was silent. The ministers bowed their heads. The maids and eunuchs held their breath. I walked out gracefully and echoed, Your Majesty, please go to Consort Lan's palace and see. Perhaps Consort Lan really had something to say. After all, she was carrying the dragon heir. Even though she had planted spies in every palace, she hadn't committed any major mistakes, so her merits and faults could be considered offset. Consort Lan had lost face in front of me, and my words were like adding fuel to the fire. She fumed. Shut up. Who asked for your fake kindness? The ministers looked up, stunned, staring at Consort Lan. They had always known Consort Lan was overbearing, but hearing about it was different from seeing it with their own eyes. Actually, Consort Lan regretted it as soon as she said it. She bit her lip and looked at Zhao Yi with tearful eyes. Zhao Yi lowered his gaze. His fingers curled tightly, and he said coldly, Consort Lan is immediately confined to the palace and shall not leave without an imperial edict. Consort Lan was stunned. She stepped back and was about to fall. I hurried forward to support her. At this critical moment, she must not have any mishap. If she loses the dragon heir, Zhao Yu would only feel guilty and lightly let her off. Right now, she must be fine. She must accept the punishment in good health and then gradually wilt. Zhao Ye's feet moved. He reached out to help, but then withdrew his hand. Consort Lan was firmly supported by others. Escorted back, she called out Zhao Ye's name unwillingly, tears streaming down her face. Zhao Ye's shoulders trembled slightly, his emotions pushed to the limit. When the crowd dispersed, he came to the rear hall. It seemed he wanted to vent all his anger on me, but the moment he entered the rear hall, he was surrounded by several princes and princesses. Father, you are so mighty. Your children will also punish evil and promote good like you in the future. Father, thank you. You finally punished Nanny Lee. She took advantage of being my wet nurse and bullied me because I have no mother. She was always hitting and scolding me. I never dared to speak up. Thank you for saving me, Father. You are so great, Father, Father. The child's sincere and fervent admiration gradually dispelled Zhao Ye's anger. He looked at me with a complicated gaze. Today, I was 80% similar to my elder sister. He was not confused. He could tell us apart. My elder sister's eyes were full of love when she looked at him, but my gaze was only calm. In the moment of silence, the 13th princess hugged Zhao Yi and said happily, Father, in Mother's bedchamber, besides those pieces of evidence, there are also letters she wrote to you. A very thick stack, she gestured with her small hand, measuring the height. The sincerity of the child was especially touching. Zhao Yi was stunned. He bent down and held the 13th princess in his arms, his eyes reddening. How do you know? 13th princess counted on her fingers. What I saw, Your Majesty, was you and Mother arguing over Consort Lan's fall. Mother wrote a letter. Later, during the hunt, Consort Lan's horse was poisoned, so Mother wrote another letter. Consort Lan got a rash, and you came to find Mother. Mother cried, and she wrote another one. Zhao Ye's expression grew darker. His hands trembled so much he could barely hold the 13th princess. He set her down and snapped coldly, enough. The 13th princess was so scared her eyes filled with tears. She quickly threw herself into my arms, hiding her little head on my shoulder, but couldn't help stealing glances at Zhao Ye's expression. I felt conflicted. I had only taught the 13th princess the first sentence. The rest she said on her own. She had seen her mother's sorrow. She was speaking up for her mother. She truly is a good child. I picked her up and looked at Zhao Yi. Your Majesty, all the princes and princesses who came today are here. These few show great talent. I ask Your Majesty to investigate carefully. I pointed at the 3rd prince, the 9th prince, and a few other more outstanding princes and princesses. I had reliable candidates found, stable and trustworthy, then took my leave with them after bowing. Zhao Yi opened his mouth. He wanted to say something, but I paid no attention. I didn't want to endure his anger or listen to his confessions. It was his own fault. He had lost the woman who loved him most in the world. Then, he had to bear the pain of having no one to talk to. I would only do what I should to bring everything to a proper close. After sending off the princes and princesses who still had mothers, I personally escorted those without mothers back. When I reached the 3rd prince, I stopped and calmly asked him, Why do you hate me? The 3rd prince was stunned. He was young and couldn't hide his thoughts. He was clearly flustered. I do not hate Your Majesty, Mother Empress. Then let me ask again. Why do you hate the former Empress? Hate my sister? The 9th prince, 13th princess, and I all fixed our eyes on him. The 3rd prince couldn't bear it. Suddenly, he gave up and flung his sleeves angrily. Shouldn't I hate her? Her mother killed my mother. My maternal grandfather's entire family was executed. Why shouldn't I hate? The young boy was filled with anger, glaring bitterly at the 13th princess. No wonder when I first met him, I found him unusually calm, with none of the joy or yearning of someone about to be adopted, only resistance, detachment, and hidden ambition. No wonder in his future, he would slaughter my entire family and stab me and little 13 to death. I said, Your maternal grandfather embezzled public funds and forcibly seized grain fields, causing tens of thousands of people to become displaced. The order for the execution came from your father, the emperor. When your mother heard about this, she begged the emperor but failed, and then she committed suicide out of guilt. It was only to prevent the emperor from taking his anger out on you. First, the emperor acted rightly. As a ruler, he must love the people. Water can carry the boat, but it can also overturn it. He was not wrong. Second, even if he was wrong, you dare not hate the true wielder of power, but only dare to hate the innocent. You are a coward. The insolent servants your mother left behind bullied you, and it was the Empress Dowager's evidence that saved you. You dared not resist those who harmed you, but instead confused right and wrong. You are also a fool. You are unworthy of my help today. I led my people away. The 9th prince sighed and patted the 3rd prince on the shoulder. The 3rd prince shook off his hand, looking down at the ground as tears fell one by one. The 13th princess angrily said, I used to give you candy when I saw you being bullied. Give me back my candy. Even her footsteps, as she followed me, were filled with anger. The 9th prince quickly walked beside me, tilting his little face up, his bright eyes full of admiration as he looked at me. With a face full of affectionate reverence, Mother, I will never be like 3rd brother. I will surely take good care of you, and when I grow up, I will support you in your old age. I remembered the scene where he would imprison me in the palace, calling me mother, over and over again, repeatedly burying his face in my chest. A chill ran down my spine. He also had the 13th princess sent away for a political marriage. Our dynasty should not have a weakling emperor who sends princesses off to marry. I ignored him. After sending him inside, I turned and left. Turning the corner, I made a surprise return, standing outside his palace gate, peering through the gap. I saw his wet nurse press his head against her chest and joyfully kiss him on the forehead. Little 9th is back. Let me see if you got scared. No one bullied our little 9th outside, right? The breast milk has been prepared. Go drink it quickly. The 9th prince resisted, saying, I'm grown, I won't drink. The wet nurse laughed and said, Be good, it's good for you. Or, do I need to feed you myself? That's not impossible either. After all, I raised you. You'll be nursing for me until you're 12. The 9th prince's face flushed red with shame. He tried to break free, but the woman held him tightly. The wet nurse giggled. Embarrassed are we, my child? Her voice was full of teasing, just as my maid pushed open the door. Her laughter stopped abruptly. I lifted my eyes and fixed a cold glare on the wet nurse. Today, I had put a bracelet on her and saw her future. She would be executed by my order. And when the 9th prince grew up, he would never forget her. After imprisoning me, the first words he said were, You killed my wet nurse, so you owe me a new one. I raised my hand, and someone stepped forward to seize the wet nurse. The wet nurse panicked and knelt, begging for mercy. The 9th prince opened his mouth to plead for her, but I interrupted him. I won't kill her. I'll send her out of the palace. She is not fit to stay here. Her life and death will be decided by you in the future. One day, you will grow up and understand what happened today. Then whether she lives or dies will be up to you. The wet nurse was taken away. Before being taken, she struggled fiercely, staring fixedly at the 9th prince. Tears welled up in the 9th prince's eyes, but in the end, he said nothing. I had someone report the 2 incidents that happened today, truthfully, to Zhao Yi. Very late at night, Zhao Yi appeared in my bedchamber. A dark figure suddenly emerged, giving me a great fright. I was groggy with sleep, but had to get up to light a candle. Zhao Yi spoke, his voice dispirited and desolate. Don't light the candle. Just like this, I want to talk with you. Am I not a qualified father? I simply lay back down on the bed, extremely sleepy, yet still having to listen to him. It was really annoying. He probably wanted me to comfort him, but I didn't speak. He truly was not a good father. He wasn't seeking my approval either. He just wanted to vent. In this vast imperial palace, he had long cast everyone aside like worn-out shoes. Others only showed him respect and awe. There was no one suitable to talk to heart. He should have gone to consort lawn, but she was confined to her palace and had overturned his understanding of her. He had just returned from his elder sister's bedchamber, presumably having found the letters that little 13 had mentioned. His mind was now filled with memories of his elder sister, and I became the best outlet for his feelings. He rambled on about his thoughts, telling me that after his elder sister died, he had actually regretted it and had briefly hated consort lawn. He wanted to take it out on her, to scold and hit her, but when he saw her sleepy little face waiting for him outside the hall, and the joyful expression when she opened her eyes, startled by him, the hatred slowly dissipated. He thought that he could not bear to lose another woman who truly loved him after losing his elder sister. When he went through his elder sister's letters, memories surfaced one by one, and he was shocked to realize how much he owed her. Consort Lan was not as he had imagined. His favoritism had placed the woman who deeply loved him on a fire. All regrets came too late. The person had passed away, and his confessions could no longer be heard. He finished speaking and quietly waited for me to respond. He probably thought I would be moved. For an emperor, such sincere confession deserves the highest forgiveness in the world, and he should be grandly welcomed back into a world without guilt.
But why?
He should go to the underworld to apologize to the dead, not repent to the living. But I felt that if I didn't say something, he would continue to disturb my rest. I replied perfunctorily, "Your Majesty, I often wonder why people have skin." Why? Under the moonlight, Zhao Yi looked up, showing some interest. I continued, "Later I understood. Skin is the boundary. With skin, we don't have to stick to others. Only then are we complete individuals. Only then am I myself. But because of skin, we can never merge with others. The boundaries are always clear. We can never intersect or blend. It's like two trees. Even if they grow side by side, their leaves have gaps in the air. Human beings are born lonely, let alone an emperor. You must get used to it. Get used to never finding a confidant to listen to your confessions." Zhao Yi left, probably angered by the phrase, "You need to get used to it." He didn't come to my palace again, nor did he visit Consort Lan. Consort Lan quickly grew thin. I brought the imperial physician to make her fulfill her promise and apologize to my sister's memorial tablet. Consort Lan was taken to my sister's bedchamber. She was heavily pregnant, and after being released, she angrily slapped the matron who brought her, then glared at me and said harshly, "Song Mingtang, how dare you? His Majesty is just angry with me. He hasn't abandoned me. As long as I regain his favor, you will surely face retribution. Moreover, I carry a dragon heir. If you dare to harm the imperial heir, even your sister wouldn't have dared to treat me like this. Who do you think you are?" I respectfully clasped my hands and offered incense before my sister's tablet. My sister was virtuous, so she reasoned with people. But my sister also had a weakness. She dared not offend His Majesty. She feared implicating our parents and me. A woman with extraordinarily high moral standards and foresight, she had to endure humiliation and compromise. But I am different. I have no weakness, because I chose to enter the palace willingly. My parents are also determined that if I die, we'll all go down together. They'll rally the ministers to eradicate the demon consort and restore righteousness. I'm not afraid. She underestimated my sister, underestimated me. I stared at her. I said calmly, "Why do you hate my sister so much? When you first entered the palace, my sister treated you kindly. She never wronged you." Consort Lan sneered. "So what? Who says kind people get to live a peaceful life? There are countless injustices in this world. Do you know how I ended up in the harem? Our group of over 50 maidens. As we passed through various cities, the local prefects kept a few of us. Along the way, we passed bandit dens and lost several more. Then we encountered assassins, and a few more were stabbed to death. By the time we reached the capital, several more were sent off to various officials' homes. After entering the palace, I learned the truth. The emperor only selected 10 maidens from our region. The remaining 40 were meant to be consumed during the journey. Whoever survives to reach the capital becomes a noble. I survived, and I learned a lesson. One must climb upward. Only by climbing high can you decide the fate of others. I never want my fate decided by others again. His Majesty favors me and gave me a chance. If I don't seize it, I'd be a fool. Your sister may be kind, but just because our names share a Lan character, even if it's different characters, someone still told me to change mine. I refused. Not only did I refuse, but I insisted on being called Lady Lan so that everyone in the world knows. The one who should avoid that character is her, Song Lanjin. My elder sister is named Song Lanjin. Back when Li Lanyi was granted the title Lady Lan, I found it strange. No matter what, the Imperial Household Department shouldn't have chosen Lan as Li Lanyi's title. It turned out she requested it herself. Even her own title, she deliberately used to spite my sister. I said coldly. Avoiding a superior's name is a matter of moral propriety. It's the same everywhere, not just targeting you. So what? Whoever wins calls the shots, Lady Lan said proudly. I looked toward the door and said calmly, Your Majesty. Is that so? Whoever wins calls the shots. If your subject wins the bet with Lady Lan, may she be made to apologize to my elder sister. The bedchamber door was opened by me, and Zhao Yi stood silently on the steps. He had already been disappointed in consort Lan once. In the past few days, he hadn't visited her, repeatedly trying to convince himself. Today, when I went to seize consort Lan, I deliberately let him know. Anxious to save her, he rushed over urgently and overheard such words. He stared at consort Lan with an icy gaze. Her expression was extremely complex, anxiety, shock, regret, and resentment, all swirling across her pale, gaunt face in turn. Utterly spectacular. Her voice hoarse, she said, Your Majesty. Zhao Yi replied flatly, Apologize to the Empress. Tears slid from the corners of consort Lan's eyes. Your Majesty, you said you would always protect me. Apologize, Zhao Yi repeated, his voice tinged with disgust and ferocity. I grabbed consort Lan by the hair, forcefully pressing her to kneel before my sister's spirit tablet, and pushed her head down. It hit the ground with a soft thud. Forced to bend over, she instinctively screamed and protected her belly. My child. Zhao Yi, still worried, stepped in. Seizing that brief moment, lowering his voice, he chuckled softly in concubine Lan's ear. Oh, I forgot to tell you, His Majesty has already decreed your entire family's arrest and property confiscation. Your father was executed for corruption, your mother committed suicide out of devotion, and the rest have all been exiled. It was only out of concern for your pregnancy that they didn't tell you. Now you know, remember to thank me. Concubine Lan struggled to lift her head, her eyes staring at Zhao Yi in disbelief. Zhao Yi walked over, intending to help her up. I shoved a dagger into concubine Lan's hand, then seized the moment to grip her hand and stab Zhao Yi hard in the abdomen. Zhao Yi was stunned, bending over to clutch his stomach, his eyes fixed in disbelief on my hand clasped with concubine Lan's. Concubine Lan was terrified and screamed, but I still held her struggling hand tightly, twisted the dagger viciously, pulled it out, and stabbed it into Zhao Yi's chest again. Ah! The piercing scream startled the birds into flight. Zhao Yi collapsed, his eyes glaring at me, then shifting to my sister's memorial tablet. He closed his eyes in unwillingness, and a single tear slid from the corner of his eye. Consort Lan was still screaming. I slapped her hard, then smiled lightly at her as she covered her face, trembling. What I just said was a lie. His Majesty did not order your family to be raided. But I will issue an edict. I will make you watch your parents pay for your mistakes. I knocked over the vase, picked up a shard, and, as consort Lan watched in disbelief, slashed it across her cheek. I tore half her face open and cut off half her tongue. Consort Lan clutched one hand to her face and the other to her abdomen, collapsing and writhing like a maggot on the ground. Blood gushed from beneath her, mingling with Zhao Yi's blood. A tone to my sister. Someone come. Consort Lan has assassinated His Majesty. Someone come. I screamed in panic. When the crowd arrived, they saw me huddled in a corner, clutching a piece of porcelain, utterly horrified. Consort Lan had fainted. Zhao Yi was dead. And the Ministry of Justice, the Court of Censors. The Imperial Clan Court only found Consort Lan's fingerprints on the dagger that fell to the ground, 3 loop patterns and 2 whirl patterns, while I have 10 whirl patterns on both my hands. Zhao Yi was buried, and Consort Lan was sentenced to death, but I spared her life. I imprisoned her in the cold palace and ordered her entire family's property confiscated. Her father, in order to support her scheme to seize the throne, had been dishonest over the years, funneling a great deal of silver into the palace. Otherwise, with her meager palace allowance, where would she get the money to buy people's loyalty? Over the long years, I will make her watch as the wealth and power she so desperately desired turn to dust. She must atone for her actions for the rest of her life. The former court considered establishing the third prince as emperor based on the principle of primogeniture. I firmly refused on the grounds that his maternal family had been convicted. However, I allowed the third prince to enter the Ministry of Justice. The first thing he must understand is why his maternal family was convicted. Don't blame heaven and earth, feeling that everyone has wronged him. Then the Zhongren selected the ninth prince. I refused on the grounds that his maternal family was weak and his own abilities were not yet apparent. Finally, I proposed that I rule from behind the curtain. A few princes and princesses were selected to attend court together. Whoever gained experience would be chosen as emperor. Everyone was stunned, but in the end, they thought it was actually a good idea. I began bringing the children to court for hearings. The third prince remained gloomy, but he gradually let go after learning how his maternal grandfather's family had once been arrogant and tyrannical, bullying men and women alike. That little bit of resentment was eventually smoothed away. As the ninth prince grew older and came into contact with the outside world, he learned the truth about the world. He finally realized how disgusting his wet nurse's actions had been back then. He ordered her arms cut off so she could no longer force people to press against her chest. After healing her, he spared her life and sent her to the frontier, confining her. He had drunk her milk, and he would support her for life. But that was all. Later, as the children grew older, the third prince grew weary of court politics. He voluntarily left for his fiefdom to marry and have children. The ninth prince didn't love women and frankly admitted he would not have children with a woman. In the end, only the 13th princess remained. She excelled in both civil and martial arts, heroic and spirited, having grown into a young woman like a female eagle. The ministers had grown accustomed to seeing the 13th princess at court, and thus, with half-hearted reluctance, they allowed her to ascend the throne. On the day she became emperor, I set out to leave the capital, and the 13th escorted me through the pass. Before us was the magnificent landscape beyond the capital, cold-resistant grass, mighty rivers stirring a surge of heroic spirit. Little 13 called out to me, "Aunt, go and see the great rivers and mountains for me. I'll wait for you back in the capital." I waved to her, spurred my horse, and rode toward the future. Guard your realm well. The wind howled, messing up my hair. This year, Jiangnan will select a batch of handsome men for the palace. I want to go and see if there will still be the tragic incident of 10 palaces and 40 men being used as expendable resources. This is the first injustice I will rectify. In the future, I will crush one injustice after another, sweeping away the mud and filth of the world, leaving only clarity and peace across the land. Jiangnan, here I come.